First of all, looking back on my music magazine, my student magazine, I feel that it's not as professional looking because, first of all, like for example, on the student magazine you can see like the outline of the boxes and things like that, which doesn't look very professional. It just looks like that hasn't really been thought into, and it doesn't really have a colour scheme either. It's just got random colours, which isn't consistent. I just like put together a collage of different student magazines, and that's it really. For example, you can see that it does have a colour scheme, like it's got black, white and like a red kind of colour to it, so it actually looks like it's been thought into, and it doesn't look as busy, so it looks a lot more easy and consistent and professional, and it looks a lot easier to read also. First of all, when I first opened InDesign, I'd never used it before, so I wasn't really sure how to work it or how to use it or how to get rid of boxes and change different fonts and things like that. So I think like going throughout the tasks, I learned that it's easier once you know what you're doing. It's easy to use, and the more you practice, the more better that you're gonna get at it. So that's what I found. It's easy as I just kept practicing and working on it. So first, when you look at the backgrounds, they're obviously going to be totally different to how I wanted it to look. So I decided to like crop around some of the models so that you could just put it onto a white page, instead of just having an odd background which has random things in that are relevant to your shot. This, for example, as you can see, I just had to crop around the model and then just apply it onto a background. I did a lot more research on music magazines because we had a lot more time to look into them, and like some of the tests consisted of us like just looking for the connotations of what is good for a music magazine, like the background, the colour schemes, how the image and angles of like the models, and how editing should be done properly, whereas before we weren't we weren't as much skilled in how to do that. So for example, I'd kind of tell the models like how to pose or how to look. I'd tell them like what I'd kind of be looking for.
Yeah.
Whereas previously I never really used to put an input on how the model should look. I just left them to look how they wanted to look. Whereas adding my own input just makes it more like it's mine. Like it makes it look like that I've actually had an input and say into creating it. So for example, like these two shots, I used lighting, studio lighting, and I found that was quite beneficial because it brought out the features of the model, which helps it to look very professional. Yep, and like costume wise as well, just to look very like, because obviously it's a music magazine, you want it to look very current and new, like fresh. So I looked at Billboard and Vibe magazine because these are some of the magazines that I did research in that are very successful magazines. And I thought obviously using a successful magazine and adapting my own work to fit in to something that looks similar to that will really help me make my magazine look as good as it can be. So at first, this was my first attempt of making an article. As you can see, it looks very girly because it's got a lot of pink in it, which is stereotypically a girl colour, but it's more, my magazine was more aimed to a younger kind of audience. So that's why I went for like a kind of lighter pink as well. However, looking back at it, I decided that like it wasn't how I wanted it to look because it didn't link in at all with my magazine cover. So this was my final final article, sorry. So as you can see that it's got the black and the red and the white as well that links in with the cover and the contents page. So it just I've still got the pink in it, which is what I wanted it because I wanted to add a bit of pink into it, and I've also like split it up a little bit. Yeah, instead of adding like a pull quote onto the side, I've added it into the middle, which like splits up the writing so it doesn't look too much on the page. Like it looks like it's separated and there's not a big massive chunk to read. Because as I said before, my audience is younger, and they don't want to be start reading a whole full big article. I think it looks so unprofessional. Like, it's just not at all like what I would want to achieve anymore once I've like obviously created this, because it's just it looks like a mess really. It just looks like I haven't really put any thought to it. It just looks like I've just stuck some headlines on the page and left it. And even for my contents page, it just looks like the pictures, there's only like 2 pictures and they're not even level. Doesn't look interesting, just like very like short and quick. It just doesn't look interesting. Like if I seen that, I wouldn't really want to read it. Yeah, sort of a few people I asked in my class, because they were kind of like around the ages that I was looking at to like focus my magazine on. And I thought that I'd ask a few of the people in my class when I was creating my magazine what they would like to see in a magazine. And also, I wanted to do music that was kind of like popular and quite current, so I looked in the chart type of music and the different artists that they used. And yeah, just the students in my class feedback helped me a lot to create a magazine that was how I wanted it to look. I think like if you're gonna now I know that if you're gonna make a magazine or a contents page, then you really need to do your research before just getting straight into it, which is a mistake I made before. And as you can see, that it wasn't a very good example of how like a magazine should look like. Whereas once you've got the right research, the right target audience, and you know where kind of you're going with it and the colour scheme and things like that, then you are going to create something that's a lot more professional, a lot more appealing to the audience.